Hello viewers, you are watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we are broadcasting from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Aliou Cisse, and this is your weekly State of Affairs program. Once again, we said Ramadan Mubarak and blessed Lent to our viewers during this period. Our guest this week is Mr. Basiru Njai, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Mr. Njai, thank you so much for coming on the program.
You're welcome, Aliou.
To start with, let's just start by you explaining to us actually what is the core mandate of the GCCPC and how does it contribute to ensuring a fair market environment in the Gambia?
Thank you very much, Aliou. The Commission, we have three main mandates. That is the competition mandate, consumer protection mandate, and essential commodities mandate. The Commission commenced operations in 2009 with the Competition Act. Under the Competition Act, we are supposed to regulate fair competition in all sectors of the economy. So we are not a sector regulator. We look into all sectors to ensure that businesses compete fairly and that the Act has rules and regulations on how they should operate. And we ensure that businesses should operate in that way. So we do this through enforcement. If there is any anti-competitive practices, we can do investigations. And also, we also do a lot of advocacy because competition is relatively new in Africa. I think we are the first independent competition authority in the whole of West Africa. So even the likes of big countries like Nigeria, they just started maybe about 5-6 years ago. And even when they were setting up, they did come to the country for study tour. So we are relied upon by most of the countries within the region for guidance. So we do advocacy as well, like I said, to ensure that businesses know about our laws and they do voluntary compliance. So basically for competition, that is what we do to ensure fair competition in all markets. For consumer protection, we have a Consumer Protection Act. It came into force in 2014. So when that came into force, that's when we changed even the name from the Gambia Competition Commission to the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. So with this commission, with the Consumer Protection Act, now we have a Consumer Protection Tribunal, which is located at the Future Elect building. It's a tribunal, so normally we are supposed to ensure fair competition for competition, and for consumer protection, we are supposed to ensure that consumers are not, rights are not violated. So we do this through receiving of consumer complaints. So once these complaints come, we do what we call alternative dispute resolution. So normally we discuss when we receive the complaint, have discussions between the consumer and we mediate and the business person. So normally it's when they don't agree on terms. That is when the case goes to the Consumer Protection Tribunal.
And what's your overview of the current landscape of competition and consumer protection in the Gambia?
I think there is still a lot of work in terms of creating a competition and consumer protection culture in this country. Because like I said, competition is relatively new when it comes to concept. So it's going to take time for it to be inbuilt in our systems, in our government policies, because even the government policies and programs need to mainstream issues of competition to ensure that the policies we are putting in place take into context fair competition and things like that. So there is still a lot of work to do, even for the private sector too. Some of them still, they are battling with knowing what to do and what not to do. So we still have a long way to go, even though we have made a lot of strides. We have done a lot of research, we have engaged a lot of stakeholders, but still we can further improve because for consumer protection as well, Gambians generally, we don't have the habit of reporting.
Yeah.
So it's a major issue. Because currently with our act, the only time we can interfere in cases or investigate is when we receive complaints. So you would sit online, you might see thousands of complaints, but if you tell them to come and complain, maybe 5
If there's no formal complaint,
yes,
then you cannot also
we cannot act. So that has limited us, but the good thing is we are in the process of reviewing and amending our acts, and that is one of the main things we are looking at, to be able to be more proactive and more impactful in some of these areas.
So how do you balance, the interest of the businessmen of the business community, and of course there are the consumers?
It's an interesting one, because sometimes when you go to a certain area, they might feel you are favoring the other.
Exactly.
So what I always say is, we are here to protect both businesses and consumers. In the sense, for a business, you might want to enter a market to penetrate a sector, and there might be the people or the businesses there engaging in certain practices that are blocking you from entering that market. It is our job to ensure that we remove those barriers. That way, any business can penetrate any sector without any hassle. Or you might be in a sector already, you have penetrated that market as a business. Maybe the dominant firms, the big players, are engaging in certain practices to kick you out as a business.
Yeah.
It is our role to investigate, to ensure that the level is grounded in such a way that you'll be able to do your business without any kind of malpractice. So in that sense, we ensure that all businesses have a level playing field. I think there is a general conception in most people that competition authorities are anti-businesses. So you would feel that when they come there, they are to trouble the businesses.
Especially when you go hard on them.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, if you have a free market, which most prices you are not regulating them, that means you are letting the businesses be. But that means they have to be rules and regulations. And in most countries, any serious investor that wants to come into a country, most of the first things they look at is whether there's a strong competition regime. Because that guarantees them that when they come in, there are things that can sustain, or laws that can sustain their investment. So without these things, you might invest your millions, you come into a country, there is no competition regime.
There's no fair market.
Yes. You might be affected in so many ways. So we are here to ensure that the private sector operates, it's vibrant, because that is what benefits consumers. But anything you do needs to be with rules and regulations. We need to ensure that they don't engage in any practices that also violates consumers or exploits consumers. Because generally businessmen everybody goes into business to make money. That is the bottom line. So for instance, now if there is a sudden market failure, or all of a sudden there is a proper scarcity of a product, the idea of the businessman would be, this is my best time to make money. So who is there to look out for the consumer? So now in those cases, we would come in and see whether what you are doing is exploitative or not. In a normal situation, would you act this way? That means you can obviously increase margins, but it has to be reasonable. They cannot come and take advantage of a situation and to the exploitation of consumers.
Especially during this period of Ramadan and Lent.
And Lent. So it's very important. The other bit is collusion. Businesses do come together to fix prices or to make agreements at the detriment of consumers. So we have a responsibility to analyze, to monitor, and to ensure that does not happen. Because normally if there is intensive competition, that means prices go down. Mm-hmm. Automatically they will compete on price, they will compete on quality, compete on standard of service delivery. But now if the people supposed to compete for consumers come together and agree on such and such, that means consumers don't have anywhere to go. That means they are at the mercy of the businesses. So these are some of the things we try to let them know, that do's and don'ts. You can operate, we are not here to disturb any business, but operate fairly in accordance with the rules and regulations of the country when it comes to competition and consumer protection. So
what have been the biggest challenges that you have faced in ensuring that there's that, like you said, there's that fair competition in the market?
I mean, first, like I said, is the culture. Still, we need to see how to properly instill competition culture among the private sector, even among government, policymakers, and all these things. Because like I said, competition is a complex concept. Yeah. So you have to get the buy-in of the people. But like I always discuss with my team is, it's not only about, advocacy shouldn't be about telling people what you do. It's about making impactful decisions and interventions in the lives of Gambians. They need to see a product go or a price go to a certain level or increase in quality and relate it to your work. That's when they would remember that, okay, this is, you understand? So that is something that is a competition culture. The other one is also resources. We are still battling with resources to be able to do what we are supposed to do. Because like I said,
resources What?
Financial.
Okay.
Because we are currently totally subvented by government. So right now, and we all know that government has a lot of institutions that they are, so we need to be strategic to see how to get additional funding, even if it's not from the government subvention, but to be creative about it. So that is some of the things we are looking at in our current act. Because like I said, we are not a sector regulator. We look at all sectors of the economy. And sector regulators, the money they are having currently, it's 3-4 times more of what we have, when we are supposed to be in charge of all sectors of the economy. So that is something we need to look at, to be able to get additional finances, maybe other sources. That way we can be also, because we are mandated to be in each administrative region.
I was coming to that.
Yes, so right now we are in the Greater Banjul area. So it's difficult. Even the Greater Banjul area, I mean, it's difficult to be able to, with the resources we have, to cater to the needs of the consumers.
So is that the reason why, I mean, perhaps you are not getting that many official complaints from people? For example, someone who lives in Basse, you have a complaint. The person was, it doesn't worth me paying my fares to go up to Banjul just to go and report this.
Exactly. Because I remember my team, I think they came with a proposal for a hotline, I think about 6 months ago.
Okay.
But what I told them was a hotline will only be impactful if you can initiate. Yeah. Because somebody cannot call you on a hotline from Basse and you tell the person, come here and complain.
Exactly.
So because of this, since I took charge in July, I've already scouted at least 2 offices of country.
Wonderful.
Yes,
wonderful.
One in Farafenye and one in Basse. So I'm sure before the end of the 3rd quarter, we would have offices there. Because I feel those people are the most vulnerable consumers. They don't even know about their rights. They don't know about their responsibilities. The businesses there too don't even know their obligations. So most of these things, they end up at the police. So that is why last, I think 2 months ago, we have conducted a nationwide tour in which we have trained the councillors in each region. We have trained the police, and we have trained some of the officers at the governor's office. Why we are doing this is the councillors are at the grassroots. They are the ones who can be able to detect some of these things. And similarly, we have also trained the KMC councillors, I think last month. So the idea is, if we cannot reach everybody, at least let us reach the people who can reach the grassroots, to tell them about what we do and how they can complain.
And they can serve as a link.
They can serve as a link. So what we have done is, in each region now, we have created a WhatsApp group with all the councillors and the police and the local government authorities. So any issue that comes up, there is staff that is designated in these groups to take care of it. So now anything they have, within a split of a second, they can alert us that this is happening here, this is happening there, and we go. Right now we are also doing regional market surveillance every 3 months. Every 3 months we go in each region to check some of these things. But what I told my team is, it's good, but it's not sustainable. Because you cannot
considering the financial challenges that you are facing.
Exactly, and even going there, maybe the max you will spend there is 24 hours. What can you solve mainly? So it's a good practice that we are getting these things, but we need to have sustainable solutions, which is what I'm saying, at least to start with by this year, to have at least 2 regional offices. That way the officers there would do the market surveillance for that region and report to us, and then we see how to move things forward.
Away from that, I mean, we're still looking at the business sector. I mean, how do you ensure, or how do you address the issue of monopolies and, of course, anti-competition practices?
Okay, that's interesting.
Some of the businessmen are so powerful.
Yes.
So sometimes you can't regulate them because some of them are very close to the creator of power.
So what we do is, the important thing I want to state is, we are an independent body.
Okay.
So even for our investigations to be stopped, normally even the personnel who want to stop it, they need to gazette and give public reasons why they are stopping our investigations. And as a commission, we have board of commissioners. I should have started with that.
Yeah.
It's 5 of them. They are appointed by the president. And I, the CEO too, am appointed by the president.
Okay.
So these commissioners are the decision makers when it comes to our law. So my job and my team, our role is to do investigations, and when we are ready, we submit to them. It's like a quasi-judicial court. They make the decisions, and anybody who wants to appeal those decisions, we need to go to the High Court. So for monopolies, it's not, you cannot just see a business and call it a monopoly, because under our act, you have to have 30% of the market share.
How do you establish this to know that you own 30%?
Yes, so to know that you have 30%, there are different parameters. Okay. One is, some would use sales turnover. They can use your turnover and submit requests for information from your competitors. Okay. Once they get the sales turnover, they can do the calculations. Others, they can even use your assets. Okay. So others can even use your clientele, the number of clients you have. So there are different authorities use different mechanisms. For us, mostly we use the sales turnover, but notwithstanding, we can use other things to compute the market share. So once you have that, meet that threshold, that's when we can determine that you are in a monopoly position. So when that happens, that is when we start monitoring your actions. Because under the competition law, if you do not have a monopoly position, you can engage in certain practices, but we will not focus on you. Because we would feel that you, as a player, you don't have much power to dictate the market. But to determine market share too is very interesting. Yeah. Because you cannot determine a share, for instance, for the whole country, sometimes. You have to look at where the business is located.
Exactly, yeah.
For instance, now, let's say we are doing corner shops, for example. I cannot do an investigation, I take all the corner shops in the Gambia. Yeah. So perhaps to narrow down the market, because you have to see whether the business has influence. You can narrow down, if it's backwater, maybe you look at backwater, maybe a certain area, and see the likelihood of consumers. If they don't go to this corner shop, what is the likelihood they will go to another competitor? How far is that competitor? That's how you define the share, to know the market power of that business. So once you know that market power, you will know that this person can independently make decisions and nothing will come out of it, because consumers will not have a choice. But if they can move from this one to the other one, that means there is substitutability. They can be able to just go and get certain products or services from others.
So is that the fault of the businessman or what? It's just by nature?
I mean, I think generally, that's why I said generally, by nature. Okay. Anybody who goes into a business, you have invested your money in it. It's either your personal money or from your family, or you have taken a loan to invest. You want to maximize profit. So any opportunity you see, you will try to see how to make more money out of it. That is why we are important, because we are there to ensure that regardless of your motives, you need to also play by the rules. That is to ensure that within what you are doing, you also cater for consumers and their welfare. Because if you leave businesses and consumers alone without this proper framework, they will totally be at the mercy of, the consumers will totally be at the mercy of some of these businesses. So we need to see how to balance it, to ensure that regardless of their motives, that also consumers are not exploited. But for also consumers, I think
for you, your key focus here is not just about the monopoly, but it's about the exploitation of consumers.
Yes, yeah. Because any practice that we deem that is illegal, anti-competitive, always the end result is lack of consumer welfare. Okay. It will always affect the consumer. One, and the other two is the effect it will have on your competitors. Yeah. Because certain practices is going to foreclose your competitors. Because right now we are having issues of predatory pricing in these markets. That is, for instance, you are a big business, you have a monopoly. Other small businesses start coming in, you drop your price below your cost. Yeah. Because you know that those businesses will not be able to sustain it. Within 1-2 months, those businesses, they start leaving the market. And once they leave, you know that you are back on top. You increase your price. All the losses you made within that period, you start recouping those losses. So sometimes, even though it's funny that prices can be very low and we are concerned, people will think the consumers are enjoying. What is your business in that, blah, blah. But we look at the long-term effect. We look at the long-term effect of some of those decisions on what it will have on your competitors, and also eventually what it will have on the prices of that consumers will be exposed to buy.
And considering all these things, can you share a recent case where you come across, or where you were compelled to intervene to prevent such practices?
I mean, I can give a couple. Okay. Just about 8 months ago, we did an investigation. 2 companies that are into opticalia, eyeglasses. Okay. One company approached the other one. Okay. That, for instance, you are in Basse. Okay. I want to come to Basse. So what is your opinion? So the proposal was that since you are in Basse, you stay in Basse, I go to Farafenni, and you don't come to Farafenni. That is what we call market sharing. You divide the country into segments. Once I operate here, you don't operate here. Oh, okay. You go to another place. Well, you know what that happens with that? That means that you have total monopoly over that situation or over that region. You can charge any price you want. You can offer any service you want in terms of quality, and nothing will come out of it because you don't have an option to go. Yeah. So we
For example, if I had only one in Basse, before I pay fares to come to Combo, I would just rather go.
Exactly. So so they do market sharing. Especially they do it when competition is intense. Okay. They have competed to a level that they know that prices now, they cannot go down further. The next step can be to approach each other on how they divide the market. The other one we have just concluded is on normal saline. Normal saline is very important because it's used to administer drugs. There was a scarcity at the public hospitals, and the private sector, some of them took advantage of the scarcity. For a product that was being sold at $35, the prices skyrocketed up to $300-400. In some cases, $600 for one, from $35. So that is, and this is a life-saving drug. These are cases where people had to go for dialysis because of their conditions, and they could not access these products because they have some of the players have restricted the supply, and some have jacked up the price. So this is something we take very seriously because, I mean, just as I was saying, businessmen are businessmen. At that time, I'm sure all they are seeing is the money that they will be able to make out of it. And this is a product that is essential to even people living. So it's something very serious that we have investigated, and we have just made a decision. So I'm sure in the coming week or two, we will do a public notice on our final decision in terms of these things. Okay. Yeah, so we try as much as possible. Yeah, so those are maybe the most recent ones we are doing, but we have series of investigation.
And what are the most common consumer complaints that you received at your office?
For consumer complaints, I think return policies by some of these businesses. It's still a major problem because you buy a product, you want to return it because it's not fit for purpose, and the business refuses. Yeah. Sometimes you go, they will even have these signs. Excellent. Goods once bought cannot be returned. Yeah. Some, when you go up country, they tell you that there's a 24-hour. Some even actually think it's a law that within 24 hours, you understand. So those are some of the complaints. So now we are doing a lot of sensitizations. We go to most of these appliance places, supermarkets, to engage them that these things are illegal. Some of these signs need to be brought down because if once you are brought to the commission, it will might lead for a case to go to the court. So return policies are a problem because if a consumer buys a product and the product is not fit for purpose, the consumer has the right to return at any time that is deemed reasonable. Why I'm saying deemed reasonable is it should be on a case-by-case basis. For instance, you cannot buy, for an example, you cannot buy bread now in the morning, for instance, and you want to return it at night. That's unreasonable. Exactly. Yeah, so it depends. It's on a case-by-case basis. But then again, too, consumers need to do their homework. Because what we have also found is consumers, at times, they will not do their homework. They will go to the first shop they see, they buy something. Later on, they go and see something cheaper. And they come and say that they want to return because of there's such and such defect. Yes, yeah. No, it happens a lot. Yeah. So normally, because the Act states they cannot do that. So when we detect that, we tell them clearly, you cannot infer a defect in a product just because you found something cheaper. Your job as a consumer is to do your homework before you make an informed decision. So once you buy that product, unless it has a proper issue, you cannot return it. And also the way you treat the product is important because you cannot buy a product to tamper with it
and bring it back,
and then you bring it back in such a way that that person or the business will not be able to return it. Because as much as we are here to protect consumers, businesses too also they have also legal rights. Because you cannot buy a product if their business is taking back the product, they should be able to at least sell it even if it has a discounted cost, but not for something that they cannot even resell. So that responsibility too is very, very important for consumers to know that they need to make research before they buy products. When they buy products too, they need to take care of those products before, if they want to return it, it makes it easier. And also evidence of transaction. We don't have the culture of taking receipts. It's very, very important. Each transaction you do, get your receipt. Because once you come to fill the form.
Okay, receipts.
Yes, that is the first thing we ask. Okay. Do you have a receipt? Okay. And things like that. Another advice is, if you buy a product too, and the product has an issue, the best thing is to go back to the, because most of these businesses, they have staff that fix these products. Yeah. Go back to that business, tell them that this product has an issue. Can you send your technician to check it? Mm-hmm. Because what will happen sometimes is consumers too would go and get somebody else. That person would even come and make the product worse. Yeah. And then you start calling the business. The business will have told you that based on this contract, you should have come to us to fix it, because that person doesn't have the expertise. So all these things are very, very important when buying products, to know your warranty period and whether there is after service and all these things. It's very, very important. So mostly those are the main.
So components. So what are the fines or penalties if someone is found wanting?
I mean, for consumer protection, the tribunal is the body that makes the fines. Okay. For consumer protection, we only administer the complaints. That's why I always see sometimes even how things are reported, that the commission has taken such and such to the Consumer Protection Tribunal. Us as a commission, we do not take any business to the tribunal. We facilitate for consumers to take their cases. Okay. So that is why when you go as a consumer, maybe the only thing the tribunal might need from us, if we are the ones who did the investigation, we can supply the information that this is the finding that we had, and then that is it. So normally we facilitate for it to go. So the tribunal has their also rules. Okay. So based on it, they have their fines that they can issue. Sometimes they can make product recall. If there is an issue with the product, they can even make a recall that those products be taken away from the market and things like that.
Earlier on, you mentioned about the issue of price fixing. Mm. I mean, as a commission, do you think you are doing enough to address this issue?
It's interesting because price fixing is the most difficult violation. Yeah.
Like you said, sometimes they have their own WhatsApp group. That's where they determine
it's the most difficult.
What will be the price tomorrow. So
it's the most difficult to prove because you need different types of evidence. Okay. One is you need economic evidence. That means that from your analysis, you have seen the trend in which how prices are going. That is your economic evidence. But that is not enough. What that is saying is seeing two businesses charging the same price for a certain period alone is not enough to infer that they are fixing the price. The other bit is you need is this evidence, communication evidence. That is the fact that they have communicated, when they communicated, and all those things. So the communication evidence sometimes is the most difficult to prove. That is why also most authorities are empowered to do down rates. Okay. Certain investigations, you can decide that you need to do a down rate. A down rate is when you detect that you have a suspicion. But obviously, if you ask for it, they will not give you that information. We have the rights to go to a magistrate to request for an order or permit to do a down rate. That down rate means we can enter, once we get that permit, we can enter any premise in that business. We can seize any appliance and all those types of things. And then we bring it back to our forensics and we then check in terms of emails and all these things to check trails. So that is something that most competition authorities can use if they want to detect some of these price fixing things. Because most of the things, as much as you want to be discreet, it might be in your email, in some of these text messages, and some of your files. So that is how they can be able to detect some of these things. But it's not something that is easy. Most competition authorities, I mean, we have detected about 1 or 2, but those ones were a bit easy because they had even written contracts, which doesn't happen much now. Those people, they had a document and everything. We had access to those documents. So it was easy for us to interfere. And the other thing is, the way that Gambia is, it's a small economy. For instance, in the Western world, if you see 2 major businesses coming together, owners, for instance, if you see Samsung and Apple, their heads coming together for a meeting, automatically you would suspect, as a competition authority, that these are major competitors, there are no links. So if they meet, they are supposed to discuss something. But in this Gambia and the way it is, these businesses, they are even related. You would see what the brother is owning this, the other brother is owning what, they will be going to must together. You understand? So you cannot just infer just by seeing people together, based on the type of environment and the cultural setting. So it makes it even more difficult to but it's something that we have trained our staff fully on. Okay. And we have the techniques. The other thing is just that you cannot go fishing as a competition authority. Okay. Because that's why there needs to be a process to go to the magistrate to be able to get a warrant. That ensures that you have provided valid justification on why you need to do the raid. that means you have strong suspicions. If not, it can be abused.
Okay.
You can just sit down and maybe hear something
Yes.
is happening and you go to that place and then it can be abused and it brings burdensome to some of the businesses.
Regarding the concerns as to whether, these penalties are too weak or not, could you just share with us, what are the fines or jail time, if possible, if one is found violating these laws?
Okay, for competition, for price fixing,
Okay.
if caught, businesses can be fined up to 10%
Okay.
of their annual turnover
Okay.
for up to 3 years.
Okay. 3 years. Okay.
Yes, so that is it.
Okay.
So also failure to provide information to the commission during investigations. For an individual, it attracts a fine of 100,000 minimum.
Okay.
Or in default, that person can be sent to jail. And for corporate to failure to appear before the commission or giving us evidence in investigations, the minimum fine for corporate is 500,000. That is where we start going up. So based on the amount of non-voluntary behavior, we can keep on increasing those fines. So that is something we need to really, as enforcement, because when I took over, I think one of the first things I stated is we have done a lot of studies because we are mandated to do market studies. We have done a lot. I can count up to 10 different sectors. But now it's time for enforcement. We need to ensure that our laws are adequately implemented.
Exactly.
It's very important. That is why I'm even pushing for this act latest by the end of this year.
That's a big problem in this country.
Yes.
We have the laws and policies, but
Exactly.
implementation.
Yes, so it's a problem. And now us too, the acts are having some certain issues that we need to rectify. That's why we are trying by, hopefully before the end of this year, we can roll out the new act.
Okay.
And then we can adequately tackle some of these things. But regardless of that, even, I still feel that we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to enforcement. But that comes with resources as well, to have a bigger team and things like that. So, but nonetheless, we still, we are working on it. And I think we have made, the last few months even, if you look at the amount of investigations we have done, if you compare it to before, even for 2 years, we will not see it, because we are intensively doing a lot of investigations to try to ensure that at least we make a positive impact in the lives of the Gambians, and also ensure that there is markets work well and businesses are also able to operate in a conducive environment.
Mr. Njai, how do you react to those who said, big corporations are given special treatment by the commission, while small businesses are often, they face that strict penalties? Is that true?
Big corporations are given
special treatment. They have that preferential treatment. They can do whatever they want.
Generally by government, you mean?
Yeah.
For us, in terms of our mandate, like I told you, even if you don't meet 30% of the market share, you are not affected by the act much.
Have you ever had a case where it involves a big corporation in this country and you are about to investigate and someone from somewhere just call and say, please, Mr. Njai, forget about this case?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No, not to my knowledge. Not yet. Because I always say that I started as a commissioner, as an officer.
Okay.
And throughout, that track record is what brought me to this position.
Yeah.
And I would not get to this level and move away from my principles. And even my staff, the good thing about the commission is when some of us we are starting, we built the culture at the commission. Okay. Because when we are starting, we are pretty young, but most of the staff, 80%, they met us there.
Okay.
So they know the way of doing things. So we have been always very clear that there are laws, and those laws too, even if you want to intervene in what we do, there's a process in the act. So you have to follow through that process to ensure that it has to be transparent. And I also have a board of commissioners.
Okay.
If I start my investigation, I report to the board.
Okay.
You understand? So I cannot give them an excuse of maybe interference here and there. So I need to ensure that I do things by the book, because at the end of the day, it's a very big responsibility to be given to somebody to look at the affairs of consumers. Times are hard. Consumers are really, really tired, and they have been violated in some ways.
Quite many cases.
So I cannot get to this level with my team, because you are always as good as your team.
Well, you are also a consumer.
Yes,
so
exactly. So you are always as good as your team, and I have a very good and young team who are professionals. So I feel that these interferences, it's possible to happen. It has not happened to me for one reason or another, but almost, it's good to build track record.
Yeah.
Because most of the people who have worked with me know what type of person I am. So I'm sure if people are even to try to approach, based on how they know me or how my team approaches things, they will be a bit reluctant.
And I mean, we're running out of time. I mean, what are your priorities for the Commission in the next few years?
I think it's mainly to get the acts sorted, because once these acts are amended, I am promising that we will change the landscape when it comes to competition and consumer protection in this country. Because currently, like I said, you can see a consumer protection issue, you cannot address it until you issue a complaint. With this new act, we are able
because you are limited.
Yeah, we are able to initiate.
Yeah.
That means anything we see going wrong, we can interfere, and then, you understand? So that is one thing. In our acts. The other one is having a stronghold in the regions. We have to reach out to the most vulnerable to make impactful. And the other bit is just to continue to advocate when it comes to government, when it comes to private sector, on competition and consumer protection, to get the buy-in of the people. Because like I said, most countries are still struggling with this. But when it comes to capacity building, to keep on building the capacity of my people, it's because they are the ones doing the work now. So all I can rely on is on their expertise. But when it comes to capacity building, we need to bridge the gap between some of the officers we have and also the top. Because I feel that some of us at the top have been there for a long time. So we are getting new recruits. So
and that's why you need more resources to be able to implement.
We need more resources to recruit. But for us, I think, just to state that, I think the Commission, in terms of its intervention, in terms of capacity, we are highly regarded, because even currently, even some of these ECOWAS trainings that they are having, they are taking us to train other member states on competition and consumer protection.
So where are you located? For instance, I have a complaint and I want to lodge it. Where can I go to?
We are located in Kotu.
Okay.
Yeah, Kotu, same street as the Joint Officers Mess.
Okay.
If you look at the Kotu fire station, at the fence of the fire station, you just come in. I think about 4 or 5 buildings, you would see our office there. So we are always open. Even weekends, if you have complaints, just call. I would ensure that my people would be on the ground to help. Yes.
And finally, what message do you have for, of course, both businesses and consumers, of course, regarding their rights and obligations under the current act?
For businesses, just to state that we are here to also protect their interests. We are here to ensure that there is a level playing field. We are here to ensure that other businesses don't kick them out of the market. And if they want to penetrate certain markets too, it's our role to ensure that we create a room that is free of barriers. They can easily enter or exit any market they want. But as much as we are trying to produce or create this conducive environment, they also have to be responsible, because there are laws that also protect consumers. As much as they want to make profit, but all their actions need to be in line with our laws, the laws of this country. Because if it is not checked properly, it will always be tilted. Consumers will always be the ones suffering, while the businesses will be making the millions. So we need to see how to balance it. It's a difficult approach, but it's very important. It's very important. And for consumers, I always say that consumers need to have more belief in themselves. They need to know more about what we do. They need to report cases, and they need to fight for what belongs to them. Because as much as we are helping them, they need to realize that they deserve better. Realizing you deserve better is not just by complaining off the record. It's by putting in, because sometimes it's not about you alone. Some things are systematic. Because I always tell my people, these consumer complaints you are solving one case after the other, it's nothing. It's the day-to-day things. What you need to do is to go to the root of the issues. Solve systematic issues that helps thousands or hundreds of thousands of consumers. Because day to day, the consumer will get their money and then they go. If we don't solve the systematic issues that is affecting consumers, we will not have a meaningful impact. And that is what we have to look at, to see how to solve things in a way that will affect or have a positive influence Gambians.
Thank you so much, Mr. Basiru Njai, Chief Executive Officer of the Gambia Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. It was a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you so much once again, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of your weekly State of Affairs program. I was your host, Alu Sise. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye from me and the entire team.